Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a topic that could reshape an entire continent's economy. Imagine this. What if Africa had its own version of the euro? A single, powerful currency used from Cape Town to Cairo. It sounds like something out of a futuristic movie, but it's a conversation that's been happening for decades, and right now, it's gaining more momentum than ever before. We're talking about a potential seismic shift away from currencies like the CFA franc, which is tied to the euro, and has a colonial history, towards something new, something uniquely African. So, is this a realistic dream or a logistical nightmare? Let's break it down. First, let's get some context. For over 75 years, 14 countries in West and Central Africa have used the CFA franc. Initially, it was pegged to the French franc, and now it's pegged to the euro. France guarantees its convertibility, but in return, these African nations have had to keep a significant portion of their foreign exchange reserves in the French treasury. Critics argue this system is a form of modern colonialism, hindering economic sovereignty and development. They say it gives France too much control and limits the flexibility of these African economies to respond to their own unique challenges. Proponents, on the other hand, argue it has provided decades of monetary stability and has kept inflation relatively low compared to some neighboring countries. But the winds of change are blowing. In recent years, there's been a growing call for monetary independence. This isn't just talk. We've seen concrete moves. Remember the ECO? Back in 2019, the Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS, announced plans to replace the CFA franc with a new common currency called the ECO. The idea was to create a single, stable currency for the entire region, boosting trade and economic integration. However, the project has hit some major roadblocks. Disagreements over the timeline, the exchange rate regime, and whether it should be pegged to the euro or a basket of currencies have caused significant delays. Some countries were ready to move forward, while others, like Nigeria, the region's largest economy, had serious reservations. Then, things got even more complicated. Just recently, the military-led governments of Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso announced they were leaving ECOWAS and planning to form their own confederation, the Alliance of Sahel States. And guess what was a key part of their announcement? Their intention to ditch the CFA franc and potentially create their own shared currency. This move completely changes the game. It's a direct political and economic challenge to the old order. They're basically saying, we're taking back control of our monetary policy, and we're doing it on our own terms. This could either fragment the region further or become the catalyst for a new, truly independent currency bloc. While West Africa is grabbing the headlines, let's not forget about the East. The East African community, that's Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, South Sudan, and the DRC, is also on a path toward a single currency. They've been working on this for years, with a goal of launching an East African shilling. Their roadmap includes establishing key institutions like an East African Monetary Institute, which would be like a precursor to a regional central bank. Their target date has been pushed back a few times, now aiming for 2031. The challenges are similar to West Africa's. Getting diverse economies with different inflation rates, debt levels, and political systems to align is a monumental task. For example, Kenya has a much larger and more diversified economy than Burundi. How do you create a one-size-fits-all monetary policy that works for both? So, what are the potential pros and cons of an African single currency, whether it's regional or continental? On the plus side, the biggest advantage is facilitating trade. Imagine a Kenyan company selling goods to a Nigerian company without having to worry about converting shillings to naira and all the transaction fees and exchange rate risks that come with it. It would be seamless. This could create a massive single market, much like the European Union, encouraging investment and making African businesses more competitive on a global scale. A single currency could also bring price stability and lower inflation if managed well by a credible, independent central bank. It would also be a powerful symbol of African unity and sovereignty. A final break from colonial era economic ties. but the challenges are immense. Let's look at the Eurozone for a cautionary tale. When you have one interest rate and one monetary policy for many different countries, it can cause problems. Think about Greece's debt crisis. Greece's economy was very different from Germany's, but they were both using the same currency. When the crisis hit, Greece could undervalue its own currency to make its exports cheaper and boost its economy, a tool it would have had before joining the euro. An African currency union would face even greater disparities. You have oil-exporting giants like Nigeria, tourism-dependent economies, and agrarian societies all under one roof. How does a single central bank set an interest rate that works for everyone? If one country enters a recession while another is booming, the policy that helps one could harm the other. Furthermore, for a single currency to work, member countries have to give up a significant amount of sovereignty. They lose control over their own monetary policy. This requires a huge amount of political trust and a willingness to create strong, supranational institutions to oversee the currency. Given the political instability and governance challenges in some parts of the continent, building this level of trust is a major hurdle. There's also the question of infrastructure. You need a robust, integrated financial system, harmonized banking regulations, and efficient payment systems across all member countries. This is a massive undertaking that requires billions of dollars in investment and years of work. Let's talk about the afro, the idea of a single currency for the entire continent. Often dubbed the afro, is the ultimate goal outlined in the African Union's Agenda 2063. This is the grand vision. The strategy is that regional currencies, like the eco in the West and the shilling in the East, would act as stepping stones. Once these regional blocks are stable, they could eventually merge into one continental currency. This is a long-term project, likely decades away, but it's the destination on the map. The African Continental Free Trade Area, or AfCFTA, which came into effect in 2021, is a huge step in this direction. By eliminating tariffs on most goods and services, AfCFTA is already laying the groundwork for deeper economic integration. A single currency would be the logical next step to maximize the benefits of this free trade area. So, where does this leave us? The journey towards a single African currency is not a straight line. It's a complex, winding road full of political and economic obstacles. The recent moves by the Sahel states show that the desire for monetary sovereignty is a powerful force that can disrupt long-standing plans. It highlights the tension between regional integration and national self-determination. While the dream of an Afro or even a regional eco is powerful, the practical realities are daunting. It requires a level of political will, economic convergence, and institutional strength that is still developing. What we're witnessing is a historic, continent-wide debate about the future. It's about more than just money. It's about identity, sovereignty, and Africa's place in the 21st century global economy. The next few years will be crucial. Will the West African Eco Project get back on track, or will it be superseded by smaller currency blocks? Will the East African community meet its ambitious goals? The answers to these questions will shape the economic landscape for hundreds of millions of people. It's a fascinating, high-stakes story, and we'll definitely be keeping a close eye on it, right here on this channel. What do you think? Is a single African currency a brilliant idea whose time has come, or a risky project with too many challenges? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. Thanks so much for watching, and if you found this video informative, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories shaping our world. See you in the next one.